What if I told you that 99% of the thoughts that you think every day are not actually you thinking, and that 90% of the problems that we experience as human beings come from mistakenly identifying with those thoughts? Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, or reality doesn't work out in my favor, or people just don't understand or get me. That's because those thoughts are stemming from something called the ego. See, we all have an ego. It's that little voice in the back of our mind that keeps us playing small, that keeps us from expanding into what we know deep down we're truly capable of. Welcome to the video. My name is Isaiah Coley, and I help people finally start participating in their lives by upgrading their minds. Today's a special one. I'm going to be explaining simply what is the ego. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to understand how the ego functions, but not only that, how you can transform it from something that seems to be holding you back into something that's actually propelling you forward and helping you in life. So let's get into it. See, learning to understand your ego really matters, because if you're not aware of your ego and you don't know how it works, it will run your life, and you will continue to repeat the same patterns over and over and over again, not realizing that you had control of it the entire time. See, the ego operates a little bit like a computer program, and when it's not optimized, it will cause all sorts of issues in your lives: procrastination, relationship issues, fear, worry, addictions, you name it. Anything that you're experiencing that doesn't feel healthy or good, that's your ego unchecked. See, the ego is actually a survival tool that the mind developed in order to make sense of reality. And it started to develop very early on in childhood. If your parent was constantly shaming you for maybe not being good at school, maybe you did poorly in school and your parents were always mad at you, you might have developed an ego with a belief that I'm not good enough, because maybe it interpreted you not doing well in school as not being good enough as a human being. And it doesn't really know the difference between being good enough in specifically school or just life in general. And so it internalizes that as an entire belief, which can then play out as problems later on in your life, where you hold yourself back, you procrastinate, you don't go for what you really want because deep down you feel like you're not good enough. Why is the ego so deceptive? So the reason that our ego is running our lives and we don't recognize that it's happening is because of a very sneaky feedback loop that the ego has designed that you're not noticing it. But once you see this, you cannot unsee it. I'm going to write it out here in this diagram. So first, what happens is the ego produces a thought. And that thought could be not good enough, right? We just put not enough. And then what happens after that thought is produced, you unknowingly identify with that thought. When I say identify, I mean you look at that thought and you immediately take ownership of it. You believe that it's you. You believe that it's true. And what happens when you believe that it's true and you believe that it's you, it manifests in your actions. So as soon as you identify with it and then you believe that it's true, now your actions are going to be a reflection of that. So if you believe I'm not good enough, your actions in reality are going to be hesitating, holding back, procrastinating, making yourself small, right? And then what's going to happen is you're going to see that. That's going to produce results. It's going to produce results in your reality based off of the way that you're behaving and interacting with your reality. And those results are going to be not what you want. And so when you see those results that are not what I want, it re-triggers that belief. It re-triggers that internalized belief that you had from childhood of not being good enough. And then the thoughts come back again. See, look, this is my reality. Nothing is working out for me. And then it recreates this cycle over and over again. Then you identify with those thoughts, your actions get changed, and then you produce the same results. And so we get stuck in these cycles of producing the same lackluster results over and over again because we keep identifying with these thoughts that are producing our actions in the first place. So I'm going to create another little diagram so you can understand where actions actually come from. So there's a step-by-step sequence in how we actually end up doing things in the world. It's not exactly the way that most of us were taught we work. You just do actions based off of your decisions, right? You decide to do an action and then you do an action. But actually, here's what happens. The cause of every action is a thought. And then that thought, once it's identified with and believed, it generates a feeling. And that feeling is what's actually communicating to your body to move. That feeling could be, ooh, I really want to go to the gym, right? You could have thought, I want to go to the gym. And then the feeling is your body feels like it craves to go to the gym. And so you start moving your body and you go gym. But it always began with a thought. Every action begins with a thought. And so you can start to see this pattern playing out in your entire life. Your entire life is actually a product of your thinking. But if you're identifying with the programmed thinking of the ego all the time, what's going to happen is your life is just going to become a reflection of your ego. It's not going to become a reflection of who you actually are and what you actually want. But here's a silver lining. You are not actually the ego. You might have been believing yourself to be the ego up until this point, but you are not actually it. You are one step above the ego. The ego is just the programming that you've identified with up until this point, but you have the ability to change it. You always have. And now you're realizing that simply by watching this video and experiencing a meta perspective. A meta perspective meaning you're now zooming out on your life and you're looking at yourself almost as if you're under a microscope. This is the beautiful part of this work, is you get to become your own scientist in your life. You get to experiment with your own mind, and then from that data, you can then start changing and manipulating things in the way that suits you. See, the ego is not actually a bad thing. When it's dysfunctional, it causes problems, but when it's designed in alignment with what you want, it actually begins to work for you. Because remember, the ego produces thoughts. And if it's dysfunctional thoughts, it's going to lead to dysfunctional actions, which is going to lead to a dysfunctional life. But if you can reprogram your ego to think more high quality thoughts, more positive thoughts, more thoughts that are in alignment, then it actually becomes a positive feedback loop where instead of it's I'm not good enough, it's I'm good enough. And then that leads to your actions, and then that leads to your results. And then it creates this positive feedback loop where your ego is now actually building itself up and moving you towards your goals. And to achieve a healthy ego is actually not that hard. You're taking the first step right now simply by becoming aware. This video has allowed you to become more aware of this ego than you were previously. Even if you knew what the ego was, just by spending time thinking about the ego and being aware of yourself, you're curing yourself. Consciousness is curative. Awareness is curative. As you become aware of the programming, then you can start to release it. Now, there's many, many ways to release the programming. And over the years, you will find the ways that work best for you. And on this channel, I share the ways that work best for me. But I'm not going to get into that into this video because this is just about what the ego is and how it works. But if you want to learn more about the actual techniques that I use to begin reprogramming the mind, go ahead and look at my other videos. And also, if you think you need help with this, I am offering a free one-on-one session for the first session. You can grab that in the link in the description below. And thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited for you on this journey. I love you all. Take care. Peace.